So, the point of my talk today is I've been doing one-to-one tablet rollouts across the country. We did them right here in Boston for Boston Public Schools. We did it in Chicago. We've done them in small towns like Branford, Connecticut, in technical high schools at Connecticut Technical High School Systems. And the very first question I get from teachers is, "Oh, what app do I need? I need an app. Should I get this math app? Should I get that app?" And my point is, stop. Because when it comes to, we've all heard there's an app for that. When it comes to education, there isn't an app for that. It is not a panacea. You are the app. You and your students are the app that makes education work. Relying solely on technology and an app or a tablet or a laptop, that's like calling your textbook your curriculum. You know, like when you go in, "Oh, what's your math curriculum?" "Oh, we use this book." No, that's your material. How do you teach? And that's where I focus in on, there isn't really an app for that. Instead, what we need to think about is you and your teachers and you and your students. And what do we know about good comprehension research? What do we know about good numeracy research? Well, we know it involves two things: text-based talk and text-based analysis. That is what good instruction looks like. Good instruction involves text-based talk and text-based analysis. And that is how you really get to thinking. And so, when we're talking about text-based talk and text-based analysis, you have good practices offline. You have students working in small groups, hopefully getting back into the text. I work with Cheryl up here. She's been doing text-based talk for a long time, and we've all seen it. "Oh, we're reading a book about fishing," and somebody's like, "Well, my uncle has a boat. We went fishing once." "You went fishing once at a lake?" "I went to the lake in Disney World. You know where the swan was?" "Oh, swan. I saw a book about a swan." And they're just totally out of the text. You can do the same thing with an app, where you just totally get out of the text. And text-based analysis. You could do this same thing with pen and paper. You do not need an app for that. Well, why is this guy up here talking at a technology conference that I shouldn't be using technology? That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you should not be using technology. Instead, you need to consider and look at your learners and think about technology to enhance your pedagogical goal. Every decision you make with tech can either enhance or inhibit your pedagogical goal. And if our pedagogical goal, going back to that first thing, was increasing text-based talk and increasing text-based analysis, whether in math, science, history, you can do that more efficiently and effectively with the tech. You're enhancing your pedagogical goal, not replacing how you teach. Because you know what good teaching is. You're all good teachers. You're masters of your craft. And what we're learning today is just a new mode to improve the way that you teach. And why do I say that? Well, we all have heard about metacognition. What is it? What's the textbook definition that almost my 2-year-old can come back and say? Thinking about thinking. Yeah, I had a kindergartner come back. "Oh, what'd you guys do today?" "Well, we learned metacognition." "And what was that?" "Oh, we were metacognating. And literally," he said, "we had to activate our schema." Like, why am I getting that from a kindergartner? I mean, it's just, and we've always looked at metacognition as this reflective piece. And we talk about strategy instruction, that we're looking inside and how we think, that all learning is happening inside our heads. And all these devices on our desks, they've kind of made me realize it's not thinking about thinking and strategy exchange. It's more, metacognition to me is more of a social practice, where we're exchanging strategies within social groups. And it's really not strategy instruction, but strategy exchange and building up and learning the social practices, learning the ways of being a maker, learning the ways of being a historian. So I see it, metacognition, more as a social strategy. So I look at, how do I create an environment where I encourage strategy exchange amongst my students, focused on my two goals: text-based talk and text-based analysis. And the step one is you need to be a maker. That's why we started with today. You need to be a maker. The first place every teacher, when they say, "Oh, I want to get into ed tech, what do I need to do?" You have to have some online extension to your classroom. If you don't have it, whether it might be Edline, it might be Final Site, it might be Edmodo, you need to have a place where your kids can go that's an extension of your classroom. It's a requirement. It does not work without that. It is your digital learning hub. And luckily, we have some great DT&T sessions on that. Who's doing Edmodo? Raise your hand. Learning. Who's running our facilitator for Edmodo? Christy's doing a session on Edmodo. Districts all over the country are using that as a learning hub. Google Sites. Ian, where are you? Ian's doing a presentation on Google Sites. Wikispaces. So we have places, if you do not have a spot to learn, a digital hub, we have plenty of opportunities for you to learn about this week. If you think you're going to use tablets and you don't have an online space, they will not work. Every teacher in a tablet classroom needs to have a place where kids can upload and download work. Because these don't print. They don't, the email, you need to have that space. But more importantly, you need to have that space because it's about 24/7 learning. And not answering the same questions over and over again. Like yesterday, we talked about, I don't know how to do this operation math. You know what? I put up 5 videos. Just you go watch the video and figure it out. Step 2, you need a remix. You are an expert of content. Curate that content. Put your stamp of authority that says, you know what, this is good stuff. And you can curate with Scoop It. We have a session, somebody's just talking about other places, other tools that have used curations out there. Symbaloo is a search tool. Pixton as a webcomics. Remixing Romeo and Juliet or some plays into a comic strip.
Doesn't exist anymore, though, does it? I couldn't get into them.
We'll have to look at it. If not, we'll replace it with a different. Extra Normal is another one that we saw sad. We had a sad funeral for because we all loved Extra Normal. That is no longer there. But Toontastic or Go Animate. There's a lot of good different strips out there. Animoto, if you think, if you want the easiest way to make a movie in 2 seconds, that's Animoto. So step 2 is the remix. Step 3, build a community of talk. We need kids talking about text. That's how you build comprehension. There's no app. And if they build a comprehension app, it's probably going to be awful. You know what it's going to be? Here's a short passage. Answer these multiple choice questions. Or it's going to be a closed reading activity. Why? Because you can program that. But you can't program consciousness and thinking and meaning making. The app is your ability to explain your talk in your tools. To use interactive whiteboards. I'm using Explain Everything right now. And I can point around. And I can draw. And I can explain my thinking as I'm going through a text. Real time. That is the tool for comprehension. This is just my mode. Step 4, rethink think-alouds. We have some great digital text and tool sessions here. I'm using Explain Everything, which I consider to be the best interactive whiteboard app for iPads. But for elementary school students, things work easier like Screen Chomp, and we're also showing Show Me. So I think Stephanie's running that digital text and tools. Ian's using Jing, maybe Screencast-O-Matic, to teach you about how you can do recorded think-alouds. How many times do parents struggle with how to teach something in math? Maybe have a website where you are creating screencasts for parents. Or make a screencast introducing a text. I have examples, if you go to my YouTube channel, of mini lessons on books, on text structure, where I've gone through all the different types of text structure, and I use those mini lessons for my students. And think about it. How do you plan your recorded mini lesson? The same way you do any mini lesson. What are the parts of the mini lesson? Ian.
One other quick note is the reason why these think-alouds and these videos and these multimodal tutorials are so important is a lot of you, for some reason in your head, have it that you want to start, flipping that classroom. Before you start to flip the classroom, you have to have a place for kids to go online. You have to have online content. So you have to start building up all these videos and hosting them on your hub so that when you do someday flip, you have to have some place for them to go.
So what are the parts of a mini lesson? Who can remind me?
Well, people are thinking about that, Greg, so we're thinking about, it sounds like This is us making these videos too, and we're doing the think aloud. It's more powerful that after the kids have been modeled your thinking, that they share their thinking. And by showing them how to use these screencasting tools, it gives them an opportunity to share their thinking as they're reading with you or doing a math problem. And it's a really powerful assessment tool, and it gets them more accountable for their own understandings.
And you guys know how to do this. You explicitly define what you want to teach. You model how they do it. You provide an opportunity for guided practice, and you provide a chance for some independent practice. I mean, it's classic I do, we do, you do. And it doesn't change just because there's tech. But what we have is the end of, I call it the end of milk cart grading, because I don't have to lug home all these journals and like milk carts that I steal from the cafeteria. Because it's all living in my online space. And Stephanie's right. When you look at students thinking online, when you see how they annotate their texts and explain their thinking of a math problem and how they solved it, way more powerful as a tool to show parents, to add to a portfolio, than just a -1, you have a 97 on your math test. That -1 means nothing to me. But if I can watch that video and see where that student's thinking, where their misconception starts, way more power in that. Step 5, your checks for understanding. What do we know about good assessment practices? We know it needs to be varied. We know it needs to be frequent. We know you need to do it as a whole class. And we know you need to do it as individuals. All of this fits together. Any of those apps could be a form of assessments, but when you're doing multiple checks for understandings, we have sessions on, Mary's doing a session on Socrative here that you can learn about. A great quiz that could be given. You could do real quizzes. You could do just quick checks for understanding as a group, a poll of your classroom. Mary's it works on cell phones, computers, laptops. It's still free now, so enjoy. Digital portfolios. I think it's Dolores. Dolores is talking about expanding digital portfolios. Ian's doing a session on Evernote. There's some interest in using Evernote for digital portfolios. So if you hit those both, you can think about how to bring those together. Glogster, just a really fun poster sessions. Stephanie's doing that. You can use Glogster as a form of check for understanding as kids synthesize and summarize the content that you taught. It's just a new way. It's not a new way. I mean, we've been assessing paragraphs and posters forever. Instead of making a mobile out of a shoebox, though, you're having them do something in Glogster. And so those are basically that's my roadmap. Those are my 5 steps to really enhancing your pedagogical goal. And the goals that I focused on again today, and I have plenty of real life examples if you ever want to see them, are text-based talk and text-based analysis. Looking at ways that you can use technology to really increase the amount of talk around text, about text, and through text. That should be our goal. Because that really gets at, and when I say text, I mean text writ large. So that could be a math problem, a numerical proof. And I think it's the same thing in math. I was a math and language arts teacher. I'm not shunning my 4 math teachers in here. That math, numeracy is dear to my heart too. And they can do the same. But what can you do? That's at the teacher level. Those are the 5 steps. But at the district level, that's where LPVC is here to help, and we as a team are here to support. What can you do? Well, we have 4 basic models. Ian's been hard at work creating an online research and media skills MOOC that you can just take for free. A MOOC, what's a MOOC stand for, Ian? Tell them.
Massively open online class.
Just free class. We just put all the materials out there, everything we do, and you guys can just take that, learn more about it there. But LPVC also offers 3 other models. You can do a hybrid model at your district where we explore any of the cornerstones over a 12-week class, or even 5 Saturdays. We'd cater it to you. Ian and I just got back from Scranton, Pennsylvania, where we go down for over 5 half Saturdays over 4 months and build that program. Jim and Zach have been running a 12-week class on just online content construction. So your district can just bring in a hybrid model. We've also developed online modules, and we're working with districts across the country going through how do you teach an ORMS curriculum, and how do you integrate that into your class, and they can cater and create the online. And the final one, which I don't have to sell to you because you're all here, is the Institute. This is a fantastic, I've been doing it for 4 years now, and I'm in absolute love with this conference. Because I get to see products, we get to see makes. You guys, folks came in yesterday, you already made a video this morning. And you're working on your roadmap. You're working on your projects. You're trying to, over time, develop something. So, as a quick